The next reader is Akua Lezli Hope. She is a creator, wisdom seeker who uses sound, words, fiber, glass, metal, and wire to create poems, patterns, stories, music, ornaments, wearables, jewelry, sculpture, adornment, and peace whenever possible. She's a third generation New Yorker, and she is she founded a paratransit nonprofit to provide options for the mobility challenged in her area. She sings, practices her soprano saxophone. Fast. Everyone give a warm welcome to Akua Lezli Hope.
Sorry, I forgot to unmute. Thank you. I wanted to say all praises to those who have gone before, who struggled and bled, by whose dreams and visions we are fed. I'm sorry that I cannot name the people on whose land I sit, the First Peoples, but I want to acknowledge that this land was occupied by many before us. I'm struck and stricken that not one, but two people read everything I prepared on the Reverend. And so I will just read a little bit of her. And fortunately, I put another piece aside to fill some of my time. Just to reintroduce her to everybody, she says, I'm Reverend Josette Jackson. I'm the senior minister of the Unity Church of Peace. I've been with this community probably 16 to 18 months. I've been in St. Louis that long. I consider my home Denver, Colorado. However, I was born on the East Coast, Pennsylvania. I grew up in Virginia. I live in what's considered South County. I made it a point to go to different areas in the city to experience St. Louis. I work a lot, so I don't get out a lot. I've kind of been in this pocket here that's South County or LeMay in South County. My impressions of St. Louis, it reminds me of a southern city in the Midwest that happens to be located in the Midwest, but it had a lot of the energy and dynamics of a southern city. We're talking about deeper south, like Mississippi. And since the other two sections I had hoped to read were read, I will just conclude with Alma's question. In your opinion, who were the real heroes here in St. Louis regarding Mike Brown's death? Who really stepped up? I don't know. I don't know if I can say because, again, I'm looking from the outside in. If I'm getting most of my information via the media, then then you have people who got the spotlight or whose name was mentioned in a report. If I were to take myself away from media and just think about who I would have considered to be the hero, I would say it would have been the people who were there to make a difference in some way, whether it was to help clean up, help board up businesses so they wouldn't get any further destroyed, or it was to take school supplies and distribute them to the children up there. If it was the people that held the prayer vigils, the peace vigils, that I would say, it wasn't just people in Ferguson. They were throughout the city. I went to one particular one that was, I can't remember where it was housed, but I made that available to my community. I chose her for reasons similar to the others, that the spiritual response is critical, as well as our physical response, our psychological responses, our political responses, the idea of fighting and praying. How does the spiritual service the situation? How does the spiritual point us to continue? She talks about the call for peace. the return to the call for peace. And perhaps peace is a radical act, or perhaps peace is something that we need to set aside. How do we find the strength and how do we continue? In her interview, all of those things are addressed. I wanted to read a poem since I now have time. And this is thank you to our youth in the streets. I'm paraplegic, and getting out in the streets is really a difficult thing for me in this part of the world because there aren't even really good sidewalks. So I felt I had to at least thank those who are willing to be out there. Thank you for taking up the cause, for taking on bright lights and not freezing, for seizing the issue and not flinching and not folding, for moving through our tears and your fears, which must be there, which are there, ever present behind closed eyelids and dreams and even waking moments. You carry them through words you must say, you scrim through that treacle that could embalm, could preserve, could choke even as it feeds. You could stay stuck and yet you gather and you plan and yet you clear your throats and call us to listen. How even choked and choking, heart sore and stumbling, you move forward, you coalesce, you make arguments that cleanse, that sear, that burn, obfuscating debris, clear dross of entrenched rationales of life-taking, of warped permissions, of deranged access. Don't listen to the naysayers. Don't ignore their percussive braying about what's become reasonable. Their platforms boom loud, are hollow bleeding. You inherited a world that has made the unthinkable usual. Don't listen to them betting against you. They always bet against you when you say no to what prevails, when your fresh eyes refuse to see the unseeable, foreseen, predictably tragic, decrying the inevitability of senselessness. Don't let their demeaning misnomers distract you, whose lives are on the lines and ransom for profit, whose lives underwrite the very notions that steal them. We grieve for you. We grieve for you. We've forgotten to think twice about it, about the shortest distance, about straight lines. So thank you for giving us back to ourselves, who called for peace years ago, who cried for parity, who marched and moved and were not stuck or tired or worn or weary or silent, who fought for our lives, who sometimes won. Thank you, Amma, for calling us together.
Out of sight.